Hello there, John Veley, and I wanted to report here before we get to the DC show to show you what's been going on with my latest book, Century of Autopoint, with me and the help of my father. This has been an exciting project so far. We've got a number of people that are helping out. In addition to my dad, we've also got Robert Boland, who is a pioneer in this research. He's been doing this for a long time. He's been contributing all sorts of information. Jim Stauffer, who's written several articles on the subject, he's also been helping out with it. And I just want to show you where we are at this point, because I'm taking a break and waiting to see the fun things I'm going to see in DC before I go any farther. So cover design we've pretty well settled on. I did find a really nice font that comes really close to the font that Autopoint used on its later imprints. This is the first imprint that was used between about 22 until 1925 or so. So the book is going to be divided up into 12 chapters. The first chapter talks about Charles Kieran, the man from Bloomington who originally invented the pencil. And we got some very nice pictures. John Kieran, who is Charles Kieran's grandson, was instrumental in providing some images that are previously unpublished. And this goes through Kieran's early history as a fruit jar magnet, through his invention of the Eversharp and his ouster from the Wall Company. So in 1918, Charles leaves Wall and goes off looking for something else to do. And the first thing he thinks about doing is going back to the fruit jar business. That's something most people don't know. Then he hooks up with a guy named George Bergen, and the two of them invent, here's Bergen's patent. It was an Autopoint, but it was not a very practical Autopoint because it was kind of hard to make a slit in wood and then fill it in, leaving just a little slot in there for that paddle work. Kieran invents his pencil just a couple of weeks later, tag teaming right off of George. And then they set up the original Autopoint company, which makes these wood pencils and also makes a variety of metal pencils. Kieran leaves Autopoint, or probably got kicked out. He goes off. This is where that underscore Autopoint trademark comes in. Kieran goes and he joins the Real Light Pencil Company, which is the more direct ancestor of Autopoint, and they were made by out of Redmanol, invented by Dr. Redman. And there was a huge scuffle between the owner of Bakelite and the owners of Redmanol, which wound up going to court. And at the end of the day, Redmanol acquired a license to use Bakelite. In fact, it became a part of the consolidated company that involved all three of the major manufacturers of these substances. So then we have in 1923, this just came out of copyright. That is when Autopoint came back and Real Light acquired Autopoint. And that's when they started making pencils like these. There was a split. The next chapter is all about how Duralite was formed. It splintered off when one of the three founders, John Lynn, went off and established Duralite. And this goes through and explains there was quite a bit of scuffling over the clips. Same clips appearing also on Eversharps and on Right-Rights and things like that. Next chapter details what happens to Charles Kieran after, he leaves Autopoint for the second time, for the last time, in 1924. And he goes off, first he makes the Kieran pencils, then associates with Swanberg. He scuffles with Wall. He's involved with Right. He sets up Keen Point, and those were originally made by Duralite. And then later, Duralite acquires a name and makes some just really terrible pencils. These are awful. And then there's a connection with some really common pencils, all of which share some features which lead me to believe Kieran might have had something to do with some. And then he invented the Eagle Magnum pointer. It's his only patent that was assigned to Eagle, actually. He also invented the Wall Oxford twist filler, which probably would have been more successful if it had said, instead of turn 5 times and just sort of twisted this thing to rags, it said twist and release 5 times. That probably would have been more successful. And Kieran passes away in 1948. And that brings us back to Autopoint's golden age, which I define as the time between the introduction of the 1925 model and 1939, when Bakelite itself was acquired by Union Carbide. So we've got all of the different models, all of the different goofy variations. Jim Stauffer's got a really wonderful looking amethyst example there. And dialer pencils, double-ended pencils. And I've gotten as far as laying out the first couple pages about the tab filler. And since I'm a pencil guy and I don't have a whole lot of fountain pens, I know that when I get to DC, there's going to be an awful lot of tab filler pens for me to take pictures of. So I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, I've just kind of trailed off for now, but the last few chapters, there's going to be chapters on how Autopoint diversified into all sorts of widgets, desktop accessories, coffee makers, you name it, and then talk about how Duralite and Autopoint finally came to blows, and Duralite ended up folding in 1993, and then what happened to Autopoint after that from that point forward. There's going to be a last chapter that I'm going to be adding that talks about all of the prototypes that have surfaced. We've got shop models, prototypes, all kinds of strange and wonderful things, a lot of which I'm going to be taking pictures of at the Ohio show in November. So, but anyway, this is a pretty good start. I'm pretty confident that this is how things are going to look, at least for the first 7 chapters, and I'll send you an update as soon as I know more.